3 small incisions on my right side. That's what I remember first. Not the whole medical explanation, not the room in perfect detail, just those 3 clean marks, sitting there like punctuation on a sentence my body had started without asking me. I remember lying there thinking, this seems like a very aggressive way to answer a question nobody can figure out. Before I follow that question any further, a quick medical reminder. I'm sharing my own experience, not giving medical advice in a little paper cup. Please don't diagnose yourself, treat yourself, start or stop medication, change oxygen, change diet, or make medical decisions because of anything I say here. For your own body, please talk to your doctor or another qualified medical professional. You're hearing an AI voice because my own gets tired easily. Some days my vocal cords feel like they've been dragged across gravel and then asked to host a radio show. But the words, memories, feelings, perspective, and lived experience are mine. The AI voice helps keep the episode accessible, consistent, and easier to listen to. I'm Tate, and this is A Body Rebels, a chronic illness podcast. Today I'm talking about what it feels like to keep living after doctors once gave my future a very serious-looking expiration window. Back in 2006, those incisions were part of a biopsy. Biopsy is such a calm word. It sounds tidy. It sounds like someone is borrowing a tiny piece of information and promising to bring it back neatly folded. My version was not that polite. Nobody really knew what was going on inside me, so they had to go in and look for themselves. And what they found was sarcoidosis. Not the mild version, not the let's watch it and see version. Stage 4 sarcoidosis, scarring, damage. A diagnosis that changed the feel of the room before anyone finished speaking. You learn certain doctor sounds when you get sick enough. The pause before a sentence. The careful tone. The way their eyes move between you and the chart. The way they say, we need to talk. And suddenly the air feels thinner, even before your lungs have officially joined the argument. I don't blame doctors for being careful. I'd rather have a hard truth than a soft lie. I don't need fake comfort wrapped in medical vocabulary and handed to me like a party favor. But hearing possible endings while you're still trying to understand the beginning is a particular kind of shock. You're sitting there in your body, which is still your body, still familiar in its own difficult way, and someone is explaining what might happen next, as if your future has been moved onto a whiteboard. About a year later, my heart decided to join the meeting. Cardiac sarcoidosis. And because the lungs were also involved, it was now officially labeled cardiopulmonary sarcoidosis. And as a result, I was given a bonus prize. Heart failure. Yeah, go me! Heart failure. 2 simple but brutal words. That's all it takes for time to start behaving differently. After that came the numbers. Hospital rooms blur after a while. Medication names stack up until they sound like a foreign language being spoken through a pharmacy printer. You forget small details. The blanket. The wall color. Whether the nurse had a soft voice or just seemed soft because you were scared. But numbers stay sharp. I was told there was a 50% chance I'd make it to 2011. A 20% chance I'd make it to 2016. Those numbers did not remain politely inside the chart. They followed me home. They got into birthdays, holidays, grocery lists, future plans. They sat beside ordinary moments like a grim little accountant, waiting to see whether I was foolish enough to invest in hope. And I did the calculations people do when fear starts doing math. Should I plan that far ahead? Should I buy the thing? Should I imagine being older? Should I let myself picture a version of the future where I'm still here, still complicated, still breathing? Nobody gives you a guidebook for living with percentages attached to your lifespan. You just start doing it. Clumsily. Sometimes with dark jokes, sometimes with silence. Sometimes by pretending you're fine because explaining the fear would require more energy than you have. And then time moved. 2011 arrived and I woke up. I was still here. There was no announcement, no certificate, no official letter saying, "Congratulations, you have exceeded expectations. Please enjoy this complimentary existential confusion." The day simply continued. I probably took medication. I probably ate something ordinary. I probably looked at the date and felt a small pressure in my chest that had nothing to do with cardiology, and everything to do with recognition. I had reached a year that once sounded uncertain. Then 2016 came. That one felt different. By then, I knew more about my body. I knew more about fear. I knew more about how a person can carry a prognosis for years without mentioning it every day. And still, when that date passed, the world did not pause. The mail came. The dishes existed. My body remained complicated. And I was still in it. Same heart, too. At this point, my heart has shown up for so many extra shifts that I feel it should have a parking space, a pension, and the right to complain directly to management. My lungs are still here as well. Scarred, damaged, not exactly a showroom model, but they're still moving air. Not always smoothly, not always generously. Some days they act like air is a luxury item, and I should be grateful for whatever sample size they're willing to provide. But they're working enough for me to be here. I also had pulmonary hypertension at one point, and then it reversed. There was no dramatic hallway moment, no doctor bursting through a door with glowing good news. The numbers changed. The pressure improved. The file had to be updated. That was it. Illness can be terrifyingly loud, and then improvement can arrive quietly, like someone slid a note under the door. I wish outliving a prognosis automatically turned me into a serene person who appreciates every sunrise, every spoonful of soup, every leaf, every inspirational quote printed on a mug. It did not. I still get annoyed in traffic. I still mutter at technology when it acts possessed. I still have days when gratitude is technically available, but it's buried under fatigue, medical bills, prescriptions, and the latest weird thing my body has decided to audition. Surviving longer than expected did not make me perfect. It changed how I feel about time. In the beginning, every year felt borrowed. Every plan had an invisible question mark beside it. I still made plans because the alternative was sitting around waiting for fate to send a calendar invite, and I am not giving fate that much administrative power. But the dates were there. Then 2016. They sat in front of me like road signs I was afraid to approach. Eventually, those numbers stopped feeling like a sentence and started feeling like what they were. Educated estimates. Serious estimates. Informed estimates. Doctors were not cursing me. They were looking at the facts they had and trying to prepare me for what might come. But my body is not a spreadsheet. Sarcoidosis does not behave because a projection looks tidy. Heart failure does not check the calendar before making trouble. Scar tissue does not care about anyone's 5-year plan. So I kept living inside uncertainty because there was no clean place outside it. For a while, I tried to think of illness the way people often talk about it. A fight. A battle. Something to defeat. I understand why people use that language. It gives fear a shape. It can make you feel less helpless for a minute. But after enough years, that framing didn't fit me very well. I didn't feel like I was winning. I felt like I was negotiating. Every day, my body and I come to the table like two tired parties who have both read the agreement and object to several clauses. How much air do I have today? How much energy is real? How much is wishful thinking dressed up as ambition? Can I do the errands? Can I cook? Can I talk without running out of voice? Can I laugh without coughing? Can I cross the room without pretending I stopped because I was admiring the wall? For those listening who know this dance, you know how much planning can hide inside an ordinary task. And for the people who love someone living this way, that hidden planning is often the part you never see. The adjustment happens quietly, before anyone else knows the plan had to change. That's the daily work, not heroics. Adjustment. An adjustment can look very plain from the outside. It can look like sitting down before I planned to, changing the order of a task, letting one thing wait, doing half of what I wanted and calling that the honest version of success. That kind of adjustment feels familiar to me in private chef work too, not the dramatic television version of cooking. My work is in one family's household, in a private home kitchen, where the rhythm is quieter and more personal. A grocery list at the counter. A pot simmering low enough that the smell fills the room slowly. A meal shifted because the day changed. Sometimes I start with a clear plan, then someone's appetite is off, or the timing changes, or the ingredient I expected to use isn't the right answer anymore. So I recalibrate. I look at what's actually there. I stop trying to force the original idea and make something that fits the day. That's the connection my body keeps teaching me, whether I appreciate the lesson plan or not. Honor the actual over the planned. So I take inventory. I adjust the heat. I change the plan before the whole thing burns. Some days my body gives me enough room to move through the day almost normally. Enough air, enough stamina, enough mental clarity to forget for a little while how much coordination is happening under the surface. Other days, nothing cooperates. Breathing gets heavier. Energy drops out. The plan I made in my head becomes a cute little souvenir from a more optimistic hour. On those days, I bargain with tasks. I rearrange. I lower the bar, then lower it again, then try not to be rude to myself about needing the bar on the floor. I don't always do that gracefully. Sometimes I adjust with patience. Sometimes I adjust with irritation. Sometimes I use words that should not be embroidered on a wellness pillow. But I adjust because staying rigid would cost too much. I think about the version of me who first heard those percentages. The version trying to absorb stage 4 sarcoidosis, heart failure, scarred lungs, timelines, odds, and the heavy silence that can sit in the medical room after a doctor says something serious. I would not tell him to be strong. I would not tell him to stay positive. Those phrases can feel like glitter tossed over panic. I'd tell him he does not know the ending. The doctors don't know it either. They know a lot. They know enough to warn you, enough to prepare you, enough to say frightening things out loud because not saying them would be its own kind of harm. But they don't know every morning that hasn't happened yet. They don't know the ordinary meals. The dog's making noise at the wrong time. The laugh that turns into a cough and then somehow back into a laugh. The quiet days. The annoying days. The days when the calendar moves forward and I move forward with it, even if I'm moving slowly and with medical equipment nearby. There has been damage. There has been fear. There has been grief for the versions of my body I can't get back. There have been appointments, scans, medications, insurance problems, and fatigue so deep that language seems too small for it. But there has also been life. Not the glossy version. Regular life. A cup on the counter. A prescription bottle next to the sink. A meal planned anyway. A date on the calendar that once scared me, now sitting behind me. That part still catches my attention. Not with fireworks. More like a quiet glance at the day and a thought I don't say out loud every time. Look at that. I made it here too. My lungs are still scarred. My heart still has a dramatic medical resume. I've lived with sarcoidosis for 20 years, and my body still negotiates basic tasks that other people move through without a second thought. I don't want to romanticize that. Limits are real. Loss is real. There are things I miss. There are versions of myself I had to stop chasing because the body I live in now has different terms. Outliving the prognosis didn't erase the scars, but it did change what I thought was possible. When I look at the years I wasn't sure I'd get, I don't see a tidy miracle story. I see adaptation. I see a stubborn heart still clocking in. I see damaged lungs doing imperfect work. I see a life that refused to fit neatly inside the numbers. And I see myself still here, sometimes grateful, sometimes annoyed, sometimes scared, sometimes laughing at the wrong part, still waking up into days I once didn't know I would have. I'm Tate, and you've been listening to A Body Rebels, a chronic illness podcast. I'm grateful you spent this time with me. If any part of this felt familiar, or if you've had your own experience of living beyond a sarcoidosis prognosis, I'd love to hear from you. You can connect with the show at abodyrebels.com, or you can leave a review, send me a message, or leave a voicemail. I love hearing real listener stories, especially the ordinary days that felt bigger than they looked from the outside. I'm not able to respond to solicitations, sales offers, guest pitches, or promotional outreach, though. My inbox has enough cardio already. Please follow the show, share it with someone who might need it, and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. New episodes drop every Tuesday and Friday. And if you're able to support sarcoidosis research, please consider donating to the Foundation for Sarcoidosis Research, also known as FSR, at stopsarcoidosis.org. I'll put the link in the show notes because research is one of the few places where hope gets a lab coat and actual work to do. Small pronunciation note before I go. The word is sarcoidosis, not sarcoidosis. Sarcoidosis. Koi, like the fish. Except this version comes with specialists, scans, and a medical file that keeps gaining weight. After 20 years of living with the disease, that little mispronunciation has become a pet peeve of mine. A friendly one, mostly friendly. Let me have my koi. And remember, sarcoidosis is only rare until you're the one living with it.